I'm Wayne Beecher. I'm the host of this afternoon's session with Founders Institute Jamaica. This afternoon, we're going to be discussing the topic of financing entrepreneurs. And we have a very qualified set of panelists with us to explore the issue of financing for high impact entrepreneurs. For those of you who might not know, might be joining us for the first time, this is actually our second session. In our first Founders Institute event that took place 2 weeks ago, we explored the issue of the ecosystem players that can enable the creation of what we call unicorns, billion-dollar companies, because indeed it is our vision that within the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have a billion-dollar startup coming out of Jamaica. And we, as Founders Institute Jamaica, are committed to providing all the resources necessary in terms of access to world-class business development services, access to networks, access to market, and access to financing. And this afternoon, we're going to explore the issue of access to financing for very high impact companies that has the ability to scale and grow to be globally relevant. Founders Institute, and we're going to present more on what it is, but it is one of the world's largest pre-seed incubator and accelerator program, and it has a proven methodology of transforming ideas into startups into globally competitive enterprises. What we're going to be doing today is to take a life cycle approach to the financing for entrepreneurs. We understand that we need a lot more pre-seed and seed and early stage entrepreneurial ventures out there in order to create a kind of groundswell for new entrants to enter the market, and new entrants come with new revenues, new jobs, and a greater impact on the overall economy. So to help us to explore that today, we have 4 panelists and one of the directors from the Institute. We have to start with Christopher Brown, who is the project or the program manager for the Big E program, coming from the Development Bank of Jamaica. We also have Herbert Hall, who is the CEO and founder for Ambassador Capital, and has a track record in private equity. We have Dimitri Dawkins, who that run Graph Ventures, that has a significant amount of experience in the business development space, and as is now creating a venture capital fund for early stage firms. And we have Richard Pedwell, who is a finance broker, Jamaican by origin, but residing overseas and providing financing for large-scale growth businesses. And then we have Tennille Howell-Hussey, who is a director of Founders Institute, and she's going to just explain to us what Founders Institute has to offer. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. Our first speaker this afternoon will be Chris Brown. It has indicated he's a program director at the Development Bank of Jamaica, running a program that is designed to create the kind of companies that we are interested in, which is high impact entrepreneurs that can scale globally. And for that, he has marshaled the resources from the government and the Inter-American Development Bank. So he has a groundswell of over, I'm not going to say how much money I have, Chris, but he has a lot of money at his disposal to actually, support innovative entrepreneurs with grant funding. So I want to hear from Chris first, and then I'll do the introduction to Dimitri. So Chris, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Wayne. Good evening, everyone. Just confirm that you're seeing my screen and it's full screen. Yes, Wayne? Yeah?
We're seeing it, it's full screen now.
All right, so as Wayne said, I'm the program manager for what's called the Big E program at the DBJ, which is focused on boosting innovation, growth, and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So it's really a holistic program that's saying that we want to help entrepreneurs to get the right types of resources or support that they need. And this applies to businesses along different stages of the business life cycle. So what is Big E all about? In a very simplistic way, it's a project that supports businesses and entrepreneurs to get money, and more importantly, I would say the advice needed for them to grow. And we do this through a number of different interventions. We have different grant programs that allow businesses to get resources to be able to test products, primarily focused on innovative products. That tends to come with some type of capacity building or training or hand holding or really education around how to utilize the business, the resources properly. And then we have equity financing that we are really trying to partner with the private sector to get out to SMEs. As in, equity financing is available in the market for the most part for larger firms or medium-sized firms. And you have one and two institutions, individuals such as Dimitri and others who are looking to invest in SMEs, where we're trying to see how we can play a key role in there. Another area of the Biggie program is strengthening the institutions that support businesses. So, you know, whether you have an idea or you're already in business, very often you don't know where to go, or you're not sure where you can get the right type of guidance or training or just help. So part of the program in building the ecosystem is to try and strengthen those institutions. One, so that you're aware of them. Two, I would say, so that more of them actually exist. And more importantly, three, so that they can actually provide you with quality services so that you can actually see a business grow. And another aspect of the program is just us getting people excited and aware about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a particular mindset. It's not just about being taught something. We can put you in a classroom for 6 months, handhold you, but if you don't have the motivation within yourself to get up and get to work at 8 o'clock and arrive at meetings on time and the necessary research, then all of that effort would have really been gone to naught. So it's a mindset change that needs to take place. I would say from as early as within the high school system. So how we do this? We have a number of different products for businesses at different stages. So consider that you have a business idea. We have products or programs, the National Business Model Competition, which really operates outside of the university. So if you're in the university and you have a business idea and you want to really validate it and check to see if this is something to be done, there's a competition that's there that you can get access to. For those outside of the universities, there are what we'd call pre-incubator programs that the JBDC has, the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center has, to really help you to work through, you know, in some instances, whether this business idea that you have first is one that makes sense for you to progress with. If it is something that you should progress with, it gives you the kind of guidance on where you should go. So we partner with those entities to provide that support. Let's say you move a little further and you're now out of the business idea, you need money and advice to start the business. So you worked out what the idea is and you want to start. We have a grant program called Ignite, which allows businesses to get up to $3 million to really develop their prototype to test in the market. We also partner with a number of institutions, RevUp Caribbean, CreateTech, who have incubation programs, which are really, again, teaching you how to validate your market, teaching you how to, you know, set up your business in a particular way that can make it be investable in the future. And I would say a common theme you'll hear throughout this is the money is not the only thing. It really comes with the advice and the guidance. And I'll always promote to you as entrepreneurs that getting the guidance and the education is more important than getting the money. You can get the money, you don't know what to do with it, or you would squander it. But the knowledge that you get from these different programs, whether it's pre-incubation, incubation, that's what's valuable to set you apart from others. The next stage that we provide support to, so let's say you've already started your business and your business, you know, you have a couple clients and you want to grow it faster, so you want to scale it. The Ignite program again is available in this particular sphere. you can get up to 7 million Jamaican to help you to expand your client base, or maybe it's invest in a particular product that can help you to do that as well. Again, I'll mention Tech Beach, Branson, JBDC, they all have accelerator programs which provide you with the tools, the guidance, access to mentors, access to networks that can help you to really utilize these resources in a better way. I'll skip the established stage and just jump to kind of some of what has happened. So in the pre-seed stage, the National Business Model Competition, there have been 4 student teams, won prizes of up to 2 million. This is the last one we did. We do it every year. And 300 students have been trained in the business model canvas. A very useful tool when you're in this pre-seed stage, really trying to understand whether this business idea that you have makes sense. And it allows you to test it in the market and come back to see if the market will validate it itself. You can't sit from home and decide that this business that you have is going to be a great business, and you've never really tried the business and the market hasn't told you whether they like the business or not. Just want to highlight some brands that we've supported that you may be familiar with. Brescia, when they just started out with their idea, they got an Ignite grant and has helped them to move forward and really try and test certain things. Elsa Blend is a product, a new product on the market that is a tea thing, and Holland Pull-Up is an application that is if you're broken down, you can get a record to come from you, and it's more a digital tool that's being used. In the scale-up phase, there's Edifocal, which we supported. They came to us in that more like that scaling phase. So after they've been in business for some while and they had a new product they wanted to try, we had invested or provided a grant to them for them to utilize to test the market. And I think everybody here should be familiar that Edifocal is now on the stock exchange. So it shows that growth can take place as long as you align yourself with the right tools and support. And just probably before I close, just to say that, almost 200 businesses have been participating or benefiting from a number of these programs. And again, I want to encourage you all to, really align yourself. There are 4 products that we have in the market that will be for you. And I would say, coincidentally, all 3 of them open in October. We have a patent grant for those who want to protect your patents protect your intellectual property. We have the Seed Fund, which is our Ignite program, which opens in October. We have our Angel Fund, which is going to be investing with angel investors, which also opens in October. And then I'll say, always encourage you guys to look for Pre-Incubator, Incubator, and Accelerator programs to participate in. And Wayne, I'll stop there with a little plug to tell everybody to ensure you're tuned in to the channels that we have, which is Let's Dream Big _JA or DB Jamaica. Thank you, sir.
I like that. Let's dream big. I like that, Sister Andrew. Thank you very much, Chris. I mean, if you're starting your entrepreneurial journey, you know where to start it because you have a number of resources here, but just from the idea stage to the pre-seed stage to the seed stage. And indeed, these grant facilities are available as you try to grow and scale your business. We're still in that very early stage of the entrepreneurial journey. Apart from grant funding, what the typical entrepreneur normally try to pursue is early stage financing. And that normally comes through an angel investor or a venture, early stage venture capital firm. And so at this stage, I'm going to invite Dimitri Dawkins to speak to us about equity financing at that very early stage. Dimitri runs his own venture capital firm now, that is still in the startup stage 4. But prior to this, he has almost a decade of experience working at the Branson Center, doing the business development side of things. So I'm going to ask Dimitri now to share his experience in terms of and tell you guys what he has to offer in terms of early stage equity investment or funding, I should say. Dimitri, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. So Chris, thanks for that presentation a while ago because I think it made my job a little easier. So guys, basically, as Chris had highlighted in his slides, whether you're at the seed stage or a growth stage, after going through whether that's an initial incubator program or an accelerator program, oftentimes what you need is additional support to make it to that next level. And that support is in cash, because it takes cash to care, but also you need additional support from a strategy perspective and making sure that you can apply the theoretical knowledge you've just learned from these incubator and accelerator programs specifically to your business. How I got started with Graft Ventures directly is actually running the accelerator program at the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship. A couple of the companies that Chris had just highlighted getting funded came through the Branson Center, and we had prepped them for funding. But the fact of the matter is that businesses usually need greater amounts of support from a governance and strategy perspective. And then having an investor that is well aligned with the business is also going to allow them to clear roadblocks or provide new opportunities for that business as well. So that's where venture capital comes in. I wouldn't actually advise most people to apply for venture capital. It is some of the most expensive forms of financing that you can get in comparison to, say, debt or grant funding. However, it can be a very critical support and tool for the growth of a business, especially when you're looking at high growth overall. So if you're looking at creating, say, what I refer to as a lifestyle company, where you'd like to change replace your monthly salary by starting your own business. Maybe you get a little bump. So you want to earn 20%, 30% more per year, and you don't really plan on having a very large business over time, then venture capital isn't really for you. But if you're looking at making a very big difference over time, where you want to, we here at Graft Ventures, we believe in people, planet, profit, moving together and growing together. So if it is that you want to improve your general overall society and you have a very big goal and you want to become a market leader, whether locally here in Jamaica, across the Caribbean, or globally, and you need a partner that's going to support you in that grand vision and that those huge goals, that's where venture capital comes in. And as I said, it's not just about the funding, it's more about a partnership. It's about being able to clear those roadblocks, provide opportunities, and augment the services of the incubator ecosystem, the accelerator ecosystem, the other grant financing available. Later on, you guys will hear about debt financing as well. The financing route is not just about one channel. You don't just get funding through one channel and that's that. Depending on the needs of the business over time, strategically, and based on what's happening, you will look at different funding options. But your venture capital partner or private equity partner is typically there with you, somewhat like a marriage. I'm not going to say forever and ever, but typically at a 10-year or a longer term engagement, and they're really almost as a business partner. A venture capital or private equity investor is not there to tell you how to run your business, but to just provide you with options to support your own business strategy and the way for you to grow. And if you're looking for that sort of support, myself and the team at Graft Ventures, we invest in in businesses with tech-enabled operations and exportable products and services. I'll drop my contact info in the chat afterwards, or you can check our website at graft.ventures.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. So there you're getting not just funding, but you're getting the governance and advisory support to go along with it. And I think that is critical for very early stage businesses. So now as you progress, as your business start to grow, you might want to consider access to a larger sum of money. Still within the venture capital space, in the same asset class, it's called private equity. It might be available for you to go for your second round that you call as a Series A or Series B. And that's where you're going to talk to some bigger private equity players like Herbert Hall, So Herbert Hall is the founder and CEO for Ambassador Capital, which is a private equity firm. He comes with decades of experience from the private equity space, having been a vice president at NCB Cap Market, and having been in his business for over a year now, putting together private equity deals. So, Herbert, I'm going to ask you to just share your insights on private equity as a funding option for high growth entrepreneurs.
Thanks much. Can you just confirm that you're seeing my screen?
Yes, but it's not yet in presentation mode. So that's, yes, there you go.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for the two previous presenters. But Wayne, you're aging me, talking about me being in this thing for decades, eh? Not because my beard is gray, right?
I see the gray beard, so I just want to know you have tenure, you know?
Yeah, but thanks for that intro.
It's not in full screen mode yet, Herbert. So
you're not seeing it? All right, so thanks for that. Wayne, I wanted to share just a quick perspective that sort of puts everything, in a visual so that people can see. And with this, you have an SME life cycle financing, right? And clearly how this presentation is set up, it follows this mode, right? Where you have small firms from the ideology standpoint, you use initial insider financing, typically, savings and friends and family, that sort of thing, angels as well. And it carries you along the continuum, right? To where you have your venture capital and a private equity, and then a public equity for larger firms with track record, that sort of thing. So I thought this was a nice slide to sort of put things in perspective, right? Another one to quickly share, which sort of reinforces the fact that not all financing types is available for entities at every stage of their life, right? You'll have fit for purpose financing, and this graph sort of shows that, right? For companies less than 5 years, most of the financing, and by the way, this is taken from a paper that was done about in late 1990s, but still relevant. So this is actual data from the US, right? So for firms which is less than 5 years, you find that most of the financing is personal savings and F connections, which is friends and family. You have venture capital, you have business angels, right? Most of the financing comes from that side. So just again to reiterate the fact that it's a process, it's a continuum, and we have to be cognizant of where the continuum we are to access the relevant financing. Otherwise, sometimes we'll go to an entity. We're not really at the stage where that entity is, is for us. And when we go, we get, we get turned back, and then there's a sense that we fail in terms of getting financing. So just to point out that there is a life cycle, and you have financing for different stages. All right, so let me jump into equity financing. So pretty much it's raising capital via giving up some of your ownership in a company. Dimitri mentioned that venture capital is one of the most expensive. Venture capital is actually equity financing as well, because you're giving up a portion of a company forever, unlike debt or like grant where it's for a specific period of time, right? So you have proponents for equity, you have proponents for debt, and depending on who you talk to, they will always say, listen, try to get debt because equity is the most expensive. However, there is a significant role that equity plays, and by extension, when I mention equity, it can be public equity as with the IPOs, or private equity, as which I'm sort of going to delve in shortly. But just wanted to give that background for persons who may be wondering what equity is, so they have an idea of what we're talking about. You have different forms of equity, how you can enter as an investor into equity investments. The most one that we hear about, or the most frequent one that people talk about, is common equity, but there's also preferred stock, right? You have convertible preferred, which converts into ordinary shares after a period of time. You have warrants and options, right? So these are some of the things that are available to persons such as myself who want to assist companies via the equity route, right? Now, specifically about private equity and some of the differences. So it's typically you have a firm that screen just go blank. Yes, hello?
Your screen went blank, Kirby, and we lost the presentation for a moment. Well, it's not there now. So you perhaps want to represent.
All right, give me a second.
We're just starting on that equity slide before you will.
Yes. All right, no problem. Let me just do this. Okay, give me a second. Intermission, please. We have some music.
Mr. DJ, play us a song.
All right, just give me a second, please. Let me see what's happening with this technology thing here. It's connected. Not sure. All right. Let me
talk about us being in the digital age, but we're still having, data challenges.
Yes. All right, I think it's back. I think it's back. Well, 1 second. Okay.
So one of the questions we're going to ask is, you and Dimitri, is to explain why you're saying equity is so expensive when compared to debt. But we're going to take that to the Q&A section. Since you're back up now.
All right. So, okay. So you're seeing my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Apologies for that. So technology is a friend, but many instances it fails you, right? All right. So as I was mentioning, private equity, such as my firm, we pretty much harness funding from institutional investors or high net worth investors, and we invest it in companies which we call portfolio companies, right? So we invest the money that we would have raised from investors on their behalf, right? In the US, for example, and other countries, private equity guys typically take controlling interest of your company, right? And the aim is to work with their the company's executive to create value. In many instances, you're trying to increase revenue so that your valuation is higher on the exit. And typically there is a investment horizon timeline, whether it be 5 years or 7 years. So, and that is pretty much in the firm's investment policy statement, which says, okay, I'm going to invest X amount of money in this company, and I'm expecting to get out within 5 years. And this is my expected return, right? Based on the connections that I would have made for the management, the doors that I would have opened. Dimitri spoke about, it's not just about money, right? It's also about expertise. It's also about, removing the hurdles and creating greater value for the company. And, later on, and we can't lose sight of the fact that private equity guys are in there to make a profit, right? And there are certain things that that they will require, right? Now, I spoke about valuation in many instances, and I want to bring this concept to life, right? Because this is where, in many instances, you have conversations with entrepreneurs. They have a particular view of what their business is worth, and then, you know, the maths doesn't add up. And then there is a coming home to Jesus, right? Say, boy, this is just what my company is worth, or I have been doing this for 20 years or 10 years or however long, it must work more, right? So this conversation is sometimes difficult because this is really where you're valuing what you've been working on, you know, what you've put your heart into, you know, and the blood, sweat, and tears, right? So it's pretty much coming up with an objective value of what your business is worth, right? And why you do that is to determine how much of the business I'll give up and how much of the business, how much money I can raise, right? So at this point in time, you may want the money for going into a new market, new product, that sort of thing. But importantly, this is not at a startup stage. This is where you would have already established your business model is sound, you have some amount of history, right? And as such, you have financials, you know, and there is a basis on which a scientific method of coming up with a value of a business it can be derived. All right, next slide. What's happening here? All right. This technology is failing me tonight.
Yeah, you're having tech issues again, Irby.
Yes, it's not moving. To my next slide. Okay, all right.
Speak to
all
it.
right, okay, all right, right there. So some of the things that we'd love to see, right? And this is primarily this is important at this stage. Probably less so in the earlier stages, right? Because with the earlier stages, you still are at concept and you're trying to, you know, work through and, you know, cement your business model and and what exactly it is that you're doing. But in many instances, a private equity investor will want to see these things, right? Your business plan, for example, what's your business is about, size of the market, opportunity, marketing plan. Importantly, folks, historical financial performance and credible financial projections. And Wayne and team, if you just allow me a couple seconds to reiterate this point, right, about financials and the need to start, you know, keeping good books, right, is very, very important. I mean, in my previous life working with NCB, I've seen hundreds of family-run businesses wanting to list. And there's a problem, a fundamental problem. What's that problem? Boy, they keep two books, one for taxman and one for them, right? And this is something as entrepreneurs you have to be aware of from day one, right? While in the short term, keeping two books may help you, in the longer term, it is going to be a disadvantage because there's no way, right, an investor with long pockets and you want to move to the next stage is going to not ask you for audited financials. There's no way that investor is not going to ask you for credible financials, right? And if you're keeping two books, then you're going to have a problem because disclosure is very important. So, you know, from the get-go, yes, you're going to pay some taxes and so on, you know, but from the get-go, try to keep good books, right? Because it's very, very important. It's a sole basis, one of the main bases on which value is determined when you're at this stage, right? Now, again, expertise, what sort of expertise is there? You know, are you just a one-person, one-man band? You know, do you have support, right? What is the use of proceeds? Are you gonna tell me that you want the money? You want you want to raise money because you're tired of the business and you want to get out, then the question is, why should I get in, right? Governance framework, again, is important. And then most importantly to a lot of investors is, how do I get out, right? What is the game? What is the end plan? So some very basic requirements that, you know, we should always keep at the back of our minds, right? I think that is it for me, Wayne and team. You know, again, equity is good, but equity with the right firm or investor behind you is what can get you to the next level, right? And when spoke about the $1 billion company, right? we call it the unicorn, right? Looking for that unicorn.
Absolutely. We're gonna find it. We're hunting unicorns here. We're gonna find it. Thank you, Robert. That was very detailed in terms of your presentation, and to explain the requirements for accessing equity financing. I suspect a lot of this requirement that you have left up on the slide here is applicable when you actually go for a listing through the IPO for the stock exchange. So
that's correct.
We're going to have a follow-on session with that, but you know, this was very instructive. So really, for the young entrepreneurs on this program, accessing this kind of financing is not a walk in the park. You have to be very organized from the start. So I'm just going to recap where we're at now before we get into the debt side of things. So if you have an idea and you think it's a great idea, you can, but you have no customer, no cash flow, you can access grant financing. Or you should try to go for grant financing or leverage your own savings or, you know, that of your friends, family, and friendly fools. But you're not gonna be able to qualify for much more than that. As a company start to grow, then you might be attracted to an early stage venture capital fund. But at that stage, though, you need to be showing a validated business model. You might be acquiring some customers. You might be generating limited cash flow. You might not be profitable. And so early stage equity financing might be an option there. And DBJ Venture Innovation Grant actually applies at that stage as well. But as you start to really show traction, you start to grow the business, putting business systems in place, you have a nice customer base that's growing month on month. You are now generating free cash flow above and beyond your needs, but you need more working capital to really scale the business and expand to new markets, regionally, globally. Then you need a more serious kind of investment. And that's where, you know, private equity might come in. And you know, beyond the private equity play, you still have high demand. If you're in a high intensity in a business that require high capital intensity, you might have greater demand for cash flow, for working capital like cash flow. And that's where debt financing might come in. At that stage of the business, when you're generating free cash flow, you have some assets, you have a customer base that you can leverage to offer new value proposition. So that's where our friend Richard comes in. Richard is a finance broker and has his own financial firm, has years of experience in the commercial banking sector in Jamaica before he migrated to try and get companies to think global and not global. And he has access to a number of family offices and private investors who prefer venture debt over equity in some places. So at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Richard to have him just guide us through debt financing options for high-impact entrepreneurs. Richard, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Richard Thelwell, and the name of the company is Richwell Funding. I am the founder and currently CEO, which I want to give up the title actually, of Richwell Funding. The purpose is that I also want to expand my home office type of situation to make sure that I'm more readily accessible to the greater Jamaican market. So as you rightly said, the monies are coming from the US. So anything that we do has to tie in to the US. So we facilitate two types of funding. One is working capital funding, and two, commercial real estate. So let me start first with working capital funding. We actually offer a working capital loan. And how this works is that the company has, and I make sure I say company, has to be in operation for at least 2 years to show us the profitability of that company and cash flows. We also usually ask for the last 6 months bank statements that will allow us to see what your working capital is or your cash flows are through your bank account. Once we have established that, we can then look and give you a percentage of that for your cash needs. Now, working capital can be, well, it usually go into stock, purchase of stock, raw material, etc. So that's where we primarily focus our monies on. Secondly, with that working capital, a second type of fund that we use to fund your project. Let us assume that you are, good case in point, let us use this one. You have a container that needs to be cleared. We can give you short-term financing, again, working capital, to clear your container to allow you to pay us back within, say, a 90-day period, right? Once those items have been sold or produced, depending on what it is, if it's raw materials or finished goods that you're in. So that is the traditional debt financing. The beautiful part about this for us is that we look only on your cash flows. You don't have to be, quote unquote, a very profitable company. Once we can recognize that you have the flows to take care of your debt repayment, we will accept it. So even if you may have had bad debt history with another company, we are looking and solely focusing on the debt and the flows for this particular venture that you're now in. So that is an one-up for us. The second one is not so much debt financing, it's called factoring. And what that really means is that we buy your existing debt. And let me be careful now, we are not a bad debt broker. We want to collect. So let us make an assumption. Your company has working, let's use the word partnership with, say, Amazon. We then assess Amazon for their ability to repay, and then we will then buy that debt at a discount from you. The beautiful part about factoring is that it never shows up as a debt on your balance sheet. You literally sell it, just like any other asset. So if you had sold a stock and collected cash for it, it works out the same way. What that does, it frees up your cash, because what we have found is that a number of persons will go through the cycle, raw material, work in progress, finished goods, that takes 30 days to complete. Then they give the vendor another 30 to 60 days worth of credit. They have to always be seeking debt financing or equity financing to cover that basis by us buying back that debt from you, right? Which is really your debtors on your balance sheet for goods. Then what it does is allow you to free up that working capital immediately, though at a discount, so that you can get back your productivity immediately. So that is it for working capital, part debt, or we can buy back your debt. The second one, of course, as I mentioned, is commercial real estate. We can do anything. Oh, let me just stop there for one moment. For working capital, we start at $100,000 US. So as I said, it's a once you have some traction and you get monies going through. So finish with that now. Moving on to commercial real estate financing. We generally go for higher end commercial real estate. So we're looking for small hotels, 15 million, and we're talking US dollars, upward. So we're looking at small hotels, apartment complex, or other commercial real estate, plazas, etc. I did a deal fairly recently where a doctor wanted some monies because he's a tenant at a plaza, and his landlord decided to sell. He's retiring and wants to sell out. So he came to him and said, listen, we're giving you notice. He asked what for. I've been a good tenant of yours for the last 20 years. What is happening? So he approached us and said, hey, listen, what can you do for us? Of course, all he wanted to do was to buy that little piece. But when we added up all the cash flows from all the property, all the units that were rented, and it was 95% occupied at that stage, we simply said, hey, listen, you know, if we give you a commercial real estate loan, you can now go buy the entire plaza for yourself. And that now becomes a whole source, a new source of income for you, in addition to your medical practice. And so we were able to do that deal for him. It's a US deal, by the way, but the fact is we were able to do that for him. And that is the type of opportunities that present itself even right here in Jamaica. So we're able to use those funds in Jamaica. As you may have recognized, I mentioned just buying actual existing properties. We also delve into development a little bit. It's not our mainstay, and we don't necessarily like it. So you'll find that we ask for a lot more than the cash flows. So we may come up and ask for your expertise. Who's on your team has done this type of development before? Who are you? What is your claim to fame why we should give you that type of money? And so we focus more on the expertise than even the other aspects, which not most people ask about cash flow of the business and so on. Because yes, we don't expect someone to go into business to make a loss, right? And in this case, commercial real estate, you're not going to build 200 units with the intention that you will make a loss. So we already accept that you will make your percentage profit on it. So we just want to make sure that, do you have the capacity to ensure that this particular project will be completed in a timely manner so that everybody can recover their money, including us, of course. With regards to that same idea, we have a fairly, I like this program where what you do, you show us that you have put in 20% in cash equity. You show us your other equity in terms of land and anything else that you have put in. And that should combine to be between 35 and 40%. We will then lend the other 60% to 65% of that money. The beautiful part about it is that, as you'll recognize with debt financing, though it can be a little bit expensive, if you should have only 20% and you decide to combine your monies with other equity partners, you realize that you have diluted yourself right down to 20% of the entire project. Whereas with debt financing, you still have controlling interest, and your partners that come in, your equity partners that come in, will have the remainder. So it is a nicer tool to use when you're looking at this size. So I'm not knocking private equity. As a matter of fact, I welcome private equity, because if it wasn't for it, many of the deals that we do would not have happened. All right. I think that's about it. Oh, one last thing. You mentioned it already, but our source of funds. Our source of funds are from private individuals or family offices. They are verifiable if needs be. So they are not commercial banks. And because of that, we have some flexibility in how we are able to do it. There are guidelines, don't get me wrong, but we are flexible in how we are able to approach each project. That's it for me right now. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Richard. That was very good. It seems like you could have a very relevant proposition here in Jamaica. I mean, the commercial banks are known to be very stringent in their requirements for accessing debt financing. And so, I mean, if you have some flexibility, that would be great. I noticed both sides of the conversation from the debt and the equity perspective indicated that debt can be expensive and equity can be expensive. So can we come to a consensus as to which is more expensive? I know Dimitri started the argument. I don't know if Dimitri want to chime in and just say why he thinks it is equity is so expensive in comparison to debt.
Well, the thing about it, right, is that equity financing on a whole doesn't have a fixed repayment amount. So whereas when you take out debts, you typically have a coupon rate or a percentage interest rate per year. You know that if it's a 5-year period and you're paying 10% per year, how much you're going to pay back to that lender over that period of time. Whereas for equity, typically what you get shares in the company. You have some quasi-equity stuff such as preference shares or convertible notes or other for shared earnings agreements, stuff like that, which sort of teeter on the line between lending and equity, debt and equity. But for equity, you typically have shares in the company. They're typically not redeemable upfront. And so you are officially a partner in that company. It's not that just you've invested 100K US and you expect to get back 100K over 4 years and that's it. You maintain that equity over time until you choose to sell that, whether back to existing shareholders or to a new set of shareholders.
Okay, great. You want to say anything about that, Herbie? You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Dimitri is spot on, right? And again, you know, it's depending on who you speak to. The balance shifts, right? But equity for sure, you know, is regarded as one of the most expensive form of financing, for sure, for the very same reasons Dimitri mentioned, right? You're giving up ownership of a company, and this is into perpetuity. If you want to look at some numbers, for example, you're starting at probably a company that is valued at, say, $1 million for argument's sake, right? You give up 10% of that, right? The company grows and grows and grows to a valuation of $1 billion, but you'd have given up 10% of that, right? So just from those absolute numbers, you can see, you know, what is happening. But concurrently with that, though, is that the investor who has taken on a part of your company is also bearing significant risk, right? So while the debt guys will get back their money, right? In the case if something goes bad, the equity guys, you know, will be left sweating with you because they have taken on that risk. And so again, you know, it's a risk reward sort of trade-off. So the higher the risk, is the more you expect your return to be. And, you know, pretty much that is how it works, right? With debt, you have a fixed term that is out there. You have a fixed rate. Sometimes you have a variable rate, but at least you know that at the end of 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, whatever it is, that is it. You're done with the bank. You're done with, you know, the flexi debt, and all of that profitability redounds to you, unlike equity.
Absolutely.
So that is why it is regarded as that.
Wayne, if I can to just add something in there. So Herbert had mentioned again a while ago that $1 billion number, and I think he had mentioned it before as far as we had a quick little highlight on unicorns and the fact that we don't have a Caribbean unicorn yet. I just want to manage expectations a little bit and just say that, you know, unicorns are a very, very rare occurrence, despite what it may seem like in the US market. And I think that it's important that I'm pretty sure all of us as investors are not really expecting unicorns as part of our fund strategy. It would be nice. I mean, I won't say no to one, but at the same time, we're projecting growth in companies well, for me personally, in projecting growth in companies in line with what we see in the market, which is, a company scaling from seed stage, idea stage, going up, going eventually to whether getting private equity funding with Herbert or Richard later on, and either remaining private and being a large stalwart of the Jamaican or Caribbean economy, or being a publicly listed entity as well, alongside existing publicly listed companies on the main market and not just junior market. So for myself, like a successful exit would be at a company at the stage of about a $50 million valuation. We don't have to necessarily hit that billion US dollars for it to be success. There's a lot of value to be created in our local ecosystem, within our daily lives and within our daily communities, by just having companies that provide real value, provide real jobs for people, and just improve our society on a whole.
Absolutely. There's a 0.0006% of becoming a unicorn up to the 2020 statistic, but it's a 0.0001% that will have female athletes that dominate all classes of the sprint event. So anything is possible.
Yeah, it's aspirational. It's aspirational.
It's
There's nothing wrong with being
aspirational.
aspirational.
We're shooting for the stars. If we can move,
Absolutely.
we're good. It's built-in unintended consequences that can catalyze the ecosystem. So that's how we're framing it. Yeah, we design it to fail, because that kind of failure can come with so much unintended multiplier effects that we'll be good. Yeah.
All right. So Wayne, when you're finished.
Yes. Go on, Richard.
All right. So I like private equity. Don't get me wrong on it. So I just decided to lean towards the debt side of things. It is usually easier to get in, especially with the type of partner that I have that I'm now working with, than the traditional banking sector, because they themselves, many of them, are individuals who made that $1 billion mark in the US, or their families or their businesses, and so they are no longer interested necessarily into buying into a new company and running another company. They are good, but they are flushed with cash. And instead of the 1% that they're making, there are 2% that they can make on a bond. They are prepared to do this and will take more risk. But with that said, nonetheless, one of my biggest challenges with private equity, and Dimitri, you can probably speak to this too, is that many times the person with the idea comes in and has to give up control and interest in his company. And therefore, instead of a hand-holding situation, he feels, just imagine you come in, 100% of your idea, yes, sure, 100% of nothing is still zero, but you have just given up 60%. You no longer have control and interest in that company, and therefore you're at the behest of the private equity firm, especially if you have a very strong private equity partner who wants to lead in a particular direction. I mean, we can look at Apple, right? As a case in point. Fine, he came back, but many other persons don't come back into their business. They're kicked out. Yes, they still have their 30%, 25%, etc., and receiving the reward. But sometimes the private equity partner in this case may not go public in a timely manner for him to reap the benefit of that work that he had put in the early stages. So that is just one of the drawbacks that I have with private equity too early in the game. But I still enjoy it. I love it. I love the game. And I have seen where it can help in doing it, to structure a proper financing for a company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that requires some education in the ecosystem, because persons shy away from equity because of that ownership concern. But it's a trade-off. You want to grow, you need the support, as Dimitri said. You need the governance, you need the advisory support, you need the business development support, you need the access to the networks, as Herbie spoke about. So, there's a trade-off. A lot of the richest people in the world now are minority stakeholders in their business. Jeff Bezos is about 16% of Amazon, and it's a $1 trillion company. So, still one of the richest men in the world. So it's just how you look at it, and the mindset you take towards, creating a business. If you look at it as a business, as a financial transaction, and you know you're going to exit at some stage, so it's a more sophisticated way of looking to the business. I see everybody itching to say something.
Yeah, just one other thing, because mention Wayne, one of the main issues that entrepreneurs or even businesses, prefer for not going the equity route is the exact same thing that Richard has highlighted in terms of taking control, right? But the truth of the matter is that a private equity firm does not have to take majority control. Neither is it the case where any equity investor has to take majority control of your business, right? Again, it all depends on how much funding, what your valuation is, how much funding you're seeking, right? And how much funding you want to, how much of your company you want to give up. So I want to leave the audience with the simple thought that equity investment is a viable option, right? Whether it be venture capital or private equity, and you don't have to lose your business, right? And I've spent quite a bit of time trying to convince companies who have since listed, right? That you're not going to lose control of your business, right? The last one I listed was Fesco, and that was a major concern for them, right? Going the IPO route, having people come in and tell you, how to run a business, that sort of thing. It just don't happen that way. So I want to leave the audience with that it doesn't have to be that way. And I think one of the key things is working with a partner who understands that it does not have to go that route, right? Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that intervention, Irby. We're doing this as a webinar style event, but we do want to accept questions from the audience. They can put it in the Q&A, and Michael will queue us up as to when they want us to respond, or any panelists to respond. We're gonna move on to Tanelia, because I know that you guys indicated that both the equity and the debt financing is a very rigorous process, and we want to prepare entrepreneurs for that rigor and to put them through a kind of a program that will actually get them ready to access financing through the vehicles like the ones offered by our partners here. And that is really the reason why we have the accelerator programs to start with, and it's a reason why we're introducing this style of accelerator program to Jamaica. So to explain what Founder Institute is and what it does, I'm going to ask Tanelia to just share with us a presentation on founders. Chris, don't go, because I have a question about angel investment and about the education for entrepreneurs, for the kind of things that Dimitri and Richard and Herbert raised earlier about the equity concern. I think a lot of education is required around that. Tanelia, over to you, ma'am. Teniel, sorry.
Good night, everyone. My name is Teniel Howell Hazy. I am one of the chapter leaders for Founder Institute Jamaica. At the Founder Institute, we pride ourselves on being the world's most proven network to turn ideas into fundable startups and startups into global businesses. The company, Founder Institute, was founded in 2009 by serial entrepreneur Adio Resi and his colleague, Jonathan Grisham. The idea for the program spawned from operating thefunded.com, where it became apparent that most entrepreneurs at the idea and launch stages lacked the structure, feedback, and support network needed to be successful. The Founder Institute program methodology was crowdsourced by over 10,000 CEO members, and the inaugural program started in May 2009 in a small classroom at Stanford University. There were originally no plans that spanned beyond Silicon Valley, but upon receiving immense inbound interest to launch the program in other cities, the Founder Institute began to expand. Today, the program operates in over 200 cities and across 6 continents. We've launched over 6,000 companies, and in total, Founder Institute alumni have raised over 1.75 billion, and are worth an estimated 30 billion US. Our aim at FI is to connect you, the entrepreneur, to advisors and investors across the globe. More entrepreneurs need not apply. An accelerator, as a friend once explained to me, is an incubator on crack. And Founders Institute is hard. It's hard because once you have graduated, you have a higher chance of gaining investments because investors know how structured and rigorous our program is. So who is a founder? Well, a founder is a participant within our 4-month part-time cohort. FI Core is designed for founders at the pre-seed stage, including idea stage founders, solo founders, small teams, and companies before funding. We work with founders before they are ready to join a seed accelerator, such as Techstars, or raise funding from professional investors. A typical FI applicant is at the pre-seed stage, meaning they just have an idea and may still have a full-time job. We also have small teams who are interested in testing a prototype or minimum viable product, or a company that is seeking funding with a live product, customers, and earning revenue. Our program is tailored to your needs. We know that our founders will be at different stages when they join, and will have different needs. Therefore, our 4-month core program has 2 tracks with unique milestones and sprints. Our founders also get sprints specifically designed to address their unique business challenges. Speaking of the 2 tracks, there's the launch track and the growth track. The launch track is for early stage founders and focuses on validation of the business idea, team building, and going to market. You have clear growth sprints with weekly deliverables. Our program is dynamic. We frequently update our program based on global feedback. And as you can see, each week has a different focus with an aim to going to market and seeking funding. Secondly, we have the growth track. This is for founders further along the growth stage, seeking traction for their product and preparing for investment. Our 14-week feedback sessions with mentors assist founders with their pitch progress and data to help you make the right decisions. After you graduate, we're still here for you because we provide a lifetime of support. Alumni immediately join the world's largest network of mentors and advisors and get access to private events, office hours, and partner discounts totaling $2 million plus in value. We also have the Founder Lab. After completing the FI Core, alumni get free access to a series of additional virtual advisory programs, such as Founder Lab, to guide them towards their next major business milestones. When ready, alumni get featured on events and syndicated to a diverse pool of investors through our venture network, actively participating in a startup's first or second round of funding. So you get access to angel accelerators, microfunds. You have lots of different access to different things, even though you would have graduated already. So the time is now. When the world changes, entrepreneurs are best positioned to take advantage and build a future, but only if they move quickly to respond to changing customer needs. The Founder Institute is designed to help you do just that. Apply to FI Jamaica Core today. Our website is fi.co/Jamaica. There you can do the aptitude test to apply. Our first cohort begins in January, and the early bird price is $4.99 US. This ends October 30th, then it increases to $5.99 US, $600. So secure your position and take advantage of the early bird price today. Wayne?
Thank you very much, Tania. There's your call to action. Join the rigor and pay some money to do so. Make an investment in yourself. Guys, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Michael, if you have any questions in the Q&A, just let me know and we can direct them to the
Yeah, there are two questions in the queue right now.
let's have them. The first one, oh, it's for Richard. Wanting to know if they can have access to financing for agricultural goods sold in the US by US buyers. You're muted, Richard.
Good, I was muted. Good.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. So once you have a relationship with the US, in that the US company is the one that is buying the goods from you, we can work out a, are you going to use the word deal, where you can get that money through either working capital financing or through factoring. Chances are it will be more through factoring. So if you have $100,000 or more coming to that US company, and that US company is, for example, a supermarket chain, verifiable, willing to show us the books, and that we are sure that we can collect our money from, they can pass or test, not a very hard acid test, but a test nonetheless to make sure that they are able to pay, then yes, the answer is yes, we can factor that deal. In terms of you getting monies now directly in terms of for working capital support, at this point in time, it may be a little bit difficult, but I do have some persons who are actually from Jamaica that I'm talking to that wants to, I don't like the word help, but they want to put back or give back to Jamaica, because it is in our all best interest that we see Jamaica grow. And so we should have some working capital support for Jamaica and Jamaican entrepreneurs in short order. So my job is to try to seek out those funding to present it to Jamaica to ensure that you can get it.
A follow-on question, Richard. What is the range of capital available for working capital loan? You mentioned you start from 100,000. Is there a ceiling?
There's no real ceiling at this point in time. So we have not found that ceiling yet. Let's put that.
All right, that's good. That's good. All right. So for Dimitri and Herbert, the panelists would like to, the audience would like to know how much in terms of your ticket size are available for venture capital investment. So take Dimitri first and then Herbert. What's your deal size?
I mean, it varies, but I mean, we're doing some amounts of angel investment now if you need small amounts of capital. And then, but typically we're looking at doing $500,000 to $2 million US through single or multiple rounds.
Okay. Herbert?
Right. So again, the pool of investments available is dependent on valuation, how much a client is willing to, how much of their equity is they're willing to forego, right? So, but I mean, from my firm, and we're talking in J-dollar terms now, right? We are willing to do 10 million, right? And up, and again, it just depends on what is in front of us, what the valuation is, that sort of thing, right? Yeah, so I think that is pretty much our sweet spot,
Great. That's manageable.
Yeah.
There's another question here about, can they access unsecured debt financing if they're a startup? Is there any windows here that
Can I take that one, Wayne?
Yes, Chris.
Yeah. So, well, my initial thoughts for the audience is if you're a startup, your first thought should not be to get debt. That is something that, well, as a startup, you don't have any proof of revenue. It's going to be very difficult for you to get debt because, you know, somebody will lend you money, want to lend you money to get it back. And if you have no proof of income coming in, as much as they may be good projections or not, you're not likely to pass any credit or debt assessment, right? So I think that's a mindset that we have to change in Jamaica. And it's just because we're used to debt being the only source, let's call it that. We think of it as the default, but as a startup, you should be looking for alternate sources, whether that is grants, whether it's enter some type of competition and win a prize, whether it is looking more to access money from, let's say, family, friends, or even get into the more venture capital where you're looking for equity. But equity doesn't require you to pay back anything on a consistent basis, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever the term is. It's no cash coming out of you, and it's, as they will call it, patient. So just to put to the audience, and the DVJ recently had a forum with financial institutions. There were like 8 of them from credit unions, commercial banks. And the truth is, many of them said they don't really finance startups for the same exact reason I'm giving you, right? If you don't have any income, it's going to be hard to do that. Otherwise, and worse, they're saying unsecured debt. So that means they have nothing to try and feel comforted by if you don't repay them, right? So just putting that out there for the audience.
Thank you very much, Chris. Dimitri, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just saying, you know, guys, for many people just starting out, you typically pursue the funding round that's the 3 F's: friends, family, and fools, right? So you work within your network and see who is willing to support you based on their experience with you as a person, and you're basically putting your reputation on the line there, and work with them to get going. The other thing that I'd also like to highlight is, as a brand new company trying to seek financing, the best form of financing is revenue. So if you're making money, then you can then justify borrowing money afterwards.
Absolutely. Cool. Richard?
Right. Where am I? Thank you. Again, maybe because I'm in the debt space, you have both answered it. Debt is good when you are going to use it to leverage what you already have. So as a startup, you have nothing. Multiply 0 by any number, you're going to still get 0. The banks are going to look at that. Any lending institution are going to look at that. And so it's very difficult for us to look at just projections to say, okay, we're going to do that. What I have seen happen, and this is on the local market, is that persons keep their day job, use that to leverage an unsecured loan, and then use that monies to get the business started or up and running because you don't have enough capital otherwise. So if that is what you're thinking of, the person who asked the question, then fine. But just remember, are you really able to manage or monitor your full-time day job and a part-time business? Through my own experience, I realized that after a while, it doesn't work, right? Something going to give along the way. So the decision has to be made. What is it that you're investing in? Why do you want this initial capital? Is it for product development so that you can have something to market and something to go to show your investors, right? A proof of concept? Then yes, maybe you need to do that and borrow some unsecured loan while you're working. But once you have decided to take the bull by the horn and move forward, chances are, as everyone has said, no one is going to do it unless they start seeing monies coming through the system, right? I mean, I alluded to it when we're talking about working capital. You need 2 years of cash flows to show us. So start making some money, get your product out on the road, and then everybody will be attracted to you. How much they'll be attracted to you, how much money will be attracted, we're not sure. That depends on your valuation, etc. But that is how I would recommend that you start. Don't go for the debt initially. You may hamper yourself.
That is so true. Gary Smith wanted to ask a question. Gary, go ahead. Gary? Michael, I think you need to unmute him. No? All right, Chris, we're going to take Chris in the meantime while we sort through how we can unmute Gary to access that.
Right. Thanks, Wayne. I guess just wanted to mention, and maybe people may have missed my initial presentation who came on a little later, that, well, let me start first. DBJ has a grant program called Ignite. If you're a startup, you have no revenue, I'm going to highlight that your product or your business is innovative. You can apply and get up to 3 million to develop your prototype or to further refine a prototype of your business. So I'll put that out there. As I say, you can tune into DBJ's channels to find out how you can apply for that. It's something we put out once a year. So if you're really interested in getting into that, I would say look out for that in this month. The other thing I would say is starting a business is a journey, right? So you have a startup dream. Let's say today, the 4th of October. Chances are by the end of the month, you won't be able to get the money. And there's a journey that I think you have to have in your mind that you should take first. The Founders Institute has a program here that is geared at teaching you, giving you the right type of education, the principles, certain founding ideas that are there that you can now use to even try and start the business, to then eventually try and get access to the capital. The capital isn't the first thing that is missing, and that's often what is put forward. And I'm sure, the people in the audience might say, how am I going to start the business without the money? It initially needs a mindset change of you first, and you would be surprised. You come out of the Founders Institute, you end up pitch your idea to somebody and you actually get investment. So don't opt away from programs that provide you with that type of guidance and opportunity, especially when you're in that startup phase, because it is a journey. Nobody don't start a business right after them come up with the idea immediately after, right?
Yeah,
it's a journey that you take. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. I mean, and thank you for the vote of confidence. We have some persons from the audience who want to speak, but I don't know if we can unlock them. Youth Entrepreneur Service, you want to unmute and ask your question? And or Gary.
If not, they might have to use the Q&A or put it in the chat.
Or just put it in the chat, or put a question in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Richard.
So if anyone has any question, just put your hands up and we'll promote you so that you can ask the question. Okay.
A few questions, but for some reason I can't respond.
All right.
A technical issue. Richard.
Good. I just saw Neil Chambers. Wow, you just killed the startup dream. No, just to let you know, between us here, I don't even want to put a figure to it, but all the persons in the audience, I say 40 participants, I know about 6 or 7 of us are there. So we have at least 30 persons who are involved in startups and so on. Money is available. Let me just get that clear. There is monies out there, but monies are attracted to good products, good projects. So if you have a good product, if you have a good company, if you have a good concept, money is the least of your problem. There is enough money out there to run any business in Jamaica. between venture capital straight up to debt. There is money. So I don't think that we are killing your dream. What we're saying is get the dream properly organized, put it together, learn about running the business. And if you don't have the skill sets, and this is another part that we talk about leverage. We'll talk about leverage people money, but leverage other person's knowledge. Leverage the Founders Institute knowledge and the knowledge base that exists to make sure that your company that you have now started has what it takes to run and run efficiently, one, and more importantly, profitably.
Absolutely.
So if you have a profitable company, you will attract investors and debt equity. Debt and equity.
You'll attract a range of funding.
So there's a range of fund that is available, and it goes into the billions of dollars. I didn't want to call a number, but it goes into the billions of dollars. It is available, right? Between government, NGOs, private investors, billionaires who don't want to do anything else with their money. It is there. Look at Shark Tank. Watch these shows. It is there, right? So no, we're not killing anyone's dream. So Neil Chambers, all you have to do is to learn, get that product that you have off the ground, show it, show proof of concept, let us know that it can work. Once we assess it and we recognize it can work, money will start be attracted to you. That's my thing on it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Richard. And I think what we're trying to do, Neil, is to protect you from killing your dream, as is the case. Most startups fail within the first year of going into business. And after year 3, only about 10% of those who started still survive. And we heard about the statistics for those that goes on to be very successful. It's less than a percentage. So the only way you can actually become successful and keep that dream of yours alive is to follow the rigor of the process. And then everything else will manifest after that. Dimitri?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that same point that, I remember distinctly when I did the venture capital program at Stanford a couple of years ago, the first day they were just like, forget everything that you've learned about venture capital. The first thing that you look at in a company that you're investing in or the founder or management team is talent, like just the people themselves. And everything else, we talk about valuations, we talk about, cash flow and profitability and all of these other things, but it 9 times out of 10 comes down to just the persistence and capacity of the founder and their grit to get through it all, right? And I'm personally optimistic in our local and regional environment. I think that entrepreneurs coming out to the Caribbean have a greater chance of making it just because of our general environment considerations. If you compare an entrepreneur in the US that has a low cost and high availability of capital and stable or more stable macroeconomic conditions compared to an entrepreneur in Jamaica who has very high cost of capital and very limited access to that capital and has very high inflation, foreign exchange fluctuations, logistics challenges, education challenges, crime, etc., 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 but still manages to make it despite that. It's almost the old adage of the flower growing out to the sidewalk, right? So having that background and having that grit and that advantage of that chip on your shoulder from the negative conditions locally, actually, I think is an advantage. And if you can transfer that dream into a proof of concept, as Richard was just sharing a while ago, and show us how it's practical and how it's replicable, and keep on scaling that over and over despite the conditions, then you very much find that there's a lot of financing available. And if you've already overcome these things, let me know, right? I'm looking for founders with that chip on their shoulder as well as many other people, because that it's that persistence that is always going to lead to success. And even if a single venture fails, I mean, people all the time ask, why is it that you see certain people have failed businesses and they still get funding time and time again? It's because of that belief in that person, and also the fact that that initial belief doesn't end. So even though that particular business model, the way that they were applying it failed, the fact of the matter is there are other business opportunities, and applying that same grit and tenacity to those opportunities is going to yield greater results. So it is not a one-shot sort of scenario where the first business you have is typically a success, but every single iteration of it tends to lead to greater chances of success afterwards. Great if you do it the first time, even better if you do it the second, third, fourth time.
All right, thank you very much.
And learn quickly through the process.
I see you really believe in this, Dimitri. You're a true convert. We're going to move to wrap up the session now. I've actually been at this for an hour. I didn't realize how the time flies. We have two questions. They're simple questions, so I think we can answer them quickly. And then I'm going to ask the panelists to just give their closing remarks. One question is, where can we get seed funding? Chris went over that many times. So I think the Biggie program is the best place to start. And the other person asks, Andre asks if they have to be a registered entity to receive funding, and answer is yes, you have to, because all the panelists spoke to having your financial history in place so that there's a track record that the investors can base their decision. So you have to be registered and formalized in order to receive funding. So we're just going to wrap up the session now, and we're gonna let's ask the panelists to give a 1-minute closing remarks, and then we'll summarize and close off. Let's start with Chris, then Dimitri, then Herbert, and then Richard. In that order, and then Tennille will give her final thoughts as well.
Yeah, I guess I probably will just pick up on what Dimitri was saying, that the environment that we're in is one that as Jamaicans, I think we are very creative and innovative, and we need to find a way to hone that into businesses that can create value, right? So what I would say is, if you have a business idea, best first advice is for you to try and start. If people like it, you will see it, and that will encourage you to do more, and the financing comes after that. But I'll always underscore, learn how to run a business. That's not something we're often taught in school. From primary school come up to high school, you have entrepreneurship classes now in university and so forth. It's not something we're used to. So try and seek out the knowledge for you to be able to run a business properly. And that's what the money will chase, people who are better prepared to access the money.
Absolutely. Dimitri?
We've gone through a whole lot of complex topics here this evening. So I'll leave with a simple quote. One of my favorite quotes from Richard Branson: do good, have fun, and the money will come.
Love that. Herbert?
Yeah, I was once told that the place that has the most ideas is the graveyard, right? And it is true. So we want entrepreneurs not only to have ideas, but to execute on them. We want entrepreneurs to go through the rigor of testing those ideas, right? And the Founders Institute is one such place, probably a preeminent place for you to go through that process, right? As Richard said, money is available wherever you take it from, wherever spectrum, right? But in many instances, you just have to present that idea in an investable form, right? And the Founders Institute will help you to put your idea in an investable form.
Excellent, excellent. Richard?
All right, so my quick quote is, failures fast. Not all your ideas are fundable ideas. Not all your ideas are workable ideas. I recommend to any entrepreneur, and I still do it myself because my business is an entrepreneurial business, write down the idea, You want to make bread. You do a business plan in your mind on a one page. If you cannot present that on a one page to somebody, chances are none of us going to take it on. That's the first thing. Secondly, don't get hooked on an idea to the point where you don't want to give up anything, right? You don't want to get into debt. You don't want to give up a part of your company. 100% of zero is still zero. You need to give up something. You need to either give up some equity in your company to allow others to come in and guide you to get monies in to run your company, or you need to leverage it through debt in order to run it. And it's something that I take for myself. Your business or the company that you're running today, it don't have to be the one that you run forever and ever. Most of us go through 4 or 5 different jobs during our lifetime. We can do the same thing with businesses. Elon Musk is one such person. Yes, he made good money after the first one, and that made him good. And now he can go on to other entrepreneurial ideas. So we don't need to get hooked on it. Silicon Valley is known for that. There are companies that I have researched. I mean, we don't need to send them out now, that simply build a product, build a good idea, and pitch the company as a whole to one of the larger Silicon Valley companies. And then all of a sudden you hear that, oh, overnight they are millionaires or multimillionaires, right? Because they were bought out by a big tech firm. So those things can happen. Microsoft is known for that. So if you're on the tech side of things, build a company that Microsoft will want to take over.
Excellent.
Right? On the Jamaican scene, the same thing. Think about it from that point of view. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Richard. And Madam Tennille, your closing remarks?
Well, I would just add to what Herbert said and what Richard said. Come to us with the idea and don't decide that you're just going to go with this one idea and you're going to take it personal when we tell you, well, it's going to be bigger, it can be better. Let's see how we can change it up and make it more technical. Maybe it can turn into, you know, we're here to make your idea sellable. We're here to make your idea even better. So when you're ready, join us. I already told you, fi.co/Jamaica. Go on, we have an aptitude test, and we'll contact you soon. That's
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you all very much. Please, panelists, the audience have been asking for you to put your contact details in the chat if you want to be reached. I noticed the Biggie program website is actually in the chat now. And we are recording this session. The recording will be shared with all persons that registered for tonight's webinar. And I just want to say thank you very much, all the panelists. And for the audience, I think we got a very good treat this evening. We mapped the entire life cycle of the businesses and apply the kind of financing and the kind of financing that's available for each stage. If you're seed stage, just starting with the idea and you want to grow the business, so you have a suite of financing options. We didn't get to speak much about angel investment, but we'll kind of run out of time. I know Chris has something special brewing there. So we're going to invite him back for another event to speak about that and his special vehicle that he has coming up. So stay tuned for that announcement, and you will hear a lot more about that when it's ready to pop. But thank you very much for the time invested. We're here for 1.5 hours now, and we just hope that you learned a lot and that you can apply it to yourselves and to your dreams. And then talk to Tennille about registering for the program and so that we can accelerate your ideas and turn them into fundable startups. Thank you very much and good night.